Good morning, Ash.
Morning.
Welcome. How's things with you?
All right. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Keeping busy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Yeah, I was just talking to Ash about before we went on. This is the first day that my dad has come round to look after Buddy for a little bit while Charlotte's starting to go back into work. So this could be interesting. So if we get my dad comes running in with a baby, like needs a nappy change or something.
Just holding him like that, instead of a creasing grow bag, just like
He hasn't done nappy training yet, but obviously he's done it for me many years ago. But I'm sure it's changed a bit since then.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure
So,
he'll
he,
work
so
it out.
I'm sure he'll be good. But yeah. Anyway, so how's things with you, Ash? I mean, for people who don't know, me and you sort of know each other because you teach for my business, my company, and you also teach in UE as well, don't you, for us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we've worked together. I think we've worked together for about 5 years now.
Is it that long?
I think it's been a while. Yeah, I was
Wow.
add it up because we had a couple of years before the pandemic. But yeah, so yeah, private teaching, UE. I also just started working at a school, Brunel Academy. I've just started taking on some lessons there with the like sort of on term time and everything, and that's going okay. It's
Yeah.
just it's it's March, isn't it? As I said to you before, it's March, so I think we're used to like the go 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 of the whole. Sorry, that's the glare out of my window there.
That's right.
We're used to the go 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 of like the summer and when wedding gigs are in full swing sort of thing, and that's very full on. And this is a little bit more. It's go go go, but in a different way. So
Yeah.
I'm just sort of kind of working my way through. But yeah, it's going all right. It's going really well.
Well, let's start with. So the plan for me, my plan for this for today was going to be, let's start with teaching because
Mhm.
that's like the first little bit, and that's part of what you do in your day to day.
Yep.
Then we'll look at like live performance stuff for you because I know you do a bit of it's like function band stuff, and I know you debt for different bands and things like that. Your live stuff, and then the exciting bit, which we'll talk about your new band.
Yeah, yeah,
Leave
yeah.
that little bit to a bit later on if that's okay. Keep the
Yeah, cool.
excitement going. And yeah, quite like to talk to you if you're up for it as well, Ash, because I've not really done this with anyone else on the podcast yet. But I feel like you're a good guest to talk to about this because I know you pretty well,
Hmm.
and we know each other quite well. But I quite like to talk to you about like how you deal with like stresses and things of being a musician because I've not really spoken to many people about that. But it is a big subject, and as you know, like being a musician is it's difficult at times.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's one of my favorite subjects to talk about is musicians' mental health because I don't think it gets delved into very much because our lives are so different to the day to day and how sort of you know I've the 9 to 5 job, I guess you could say. It's a little bit more like it with teaching, but it is, isn't it? It's so different, and I
mhm.
think if you're not in it, sometimes you don't experience or understand the stresses of kind of, well, in the same way where some people talk about certain stresses in their office jobs, and I got to be honest, I kind of can't relate because I've never had an office job, so I wouldn't experience it or understand it. But yeah, like I'd love to talk about that. That'd be great.
I thought you were a good candidate for it because I know that you've done a little bit of talking about it before, and I said I know you quite well, so we can have an open and hopefully honest discussion about that. So that'd be quite cool. So let's start with teaching, Ash.
Hmm.
So let's start with teaching. How long have you been teaching?
Oh man, um, I think I was teaching s- very like not very long before joining up with you, but probably about 2 years. So maybe like 7 years. I've always sort of dipped in and out of it. I think when I was at uni, I did a little bit in schools. I did like I think you said in a previous podcast I listened to, you used to do like the school, the primary school teaching three blind mice or whatever, or things like that. I did that for a little bit. I didn't last very long, but I did that while I was studying for a little while. Great company, just the work was just a bit rubbish. And then I did, yeah, and then started with you, did private lessons, UE, came in shortly after that. And I would say what did really well for my business was actually the pandemic, because during the pandemic, I actually started putting free guitar lessons up. Um, I think I did it every week, or maybe even every night. I think I had that little to do. I did it every single day, but it was fun because it was a way to sort of you know keep connected at a time when none of us really were, and also it was really good for my teaching because I was able to go back and watch how I taught things and watch my lessons again and go, okay, cool, like I did that, but the way I said that was confusing, maybe I'll try and do this. And so coming out of the pandemic, I think it actually made me a better teacher. But I love it, and it changed actually, because I will be the first to say, and you know, I do not mean this in an insulting way at all,
Hmm.
but teaching was the last thing I thought I would go into.
Yeah.
I definitely, when I was a kid, I had this feeling of if I become a teacher, then I failed at being a successful musician. You know, I failed at like doing it, and I can quite happily say it's gone the opposite way. I really really love teaching,
Hmm.
and it makes me better in a lot of different aspects, not least the communication side of things. I've been doing a lot of jam nights and stuff recently, so I quite regularly host the Brit Bar in Weston-super-Mare. I work there. You know, I do a session there once a month and some other things like that. And I find my communication skills are quite good now because I've been able to teach that I can. You know, I just like seeing people reach their next goal. You know, and I don't know. Do you have this quite a lot with students? I'd be interested to know when you have people kind of come in and they sort of go, yeah, I've done this and I've reached this goal, but you know, I'm not that good, or I've not done this, or I've not got to this bit. And
Hmm.
when it's I try and explain to students quite a lot. Sorry, I'm gabbing. I will let you talk in a
No, it's
minute.
fine.
But when I try and explain this to a lot of my students, when it's your job and when we do it full time as we have done, and we've had to kind of make sacrifices to make this our career and not do things the traditional way, then we sort of have to have that stress that the student has of, oh, it needs to be at a certain standard. When it's not your job, or when you're doing it purely vocationally, it is literally about the smallest little wins, and that's massive. So I will sit and watch a student and see someone who 6 weeks ago couldn't play an A chord suddenly start playing slowly through like a Stevie Ray Vaughan solo or something like that, and not get through it as fast, but get through it and be relatively in time, or their timekeeping improves, or their technique improves, and that's huge. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of time.
Yeah.
I just did it when I was 16. That's the only difference,
Yes.
you know, and they're doing it now. So I'm really big into, I want my students to feel like they're achieving, because we all deserve to feel that. We all deserve to feel that we're achieving things and we're making strides forward, especially if you're paid for guitar lessons.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for me now. Is I don't I do get results and I have great students, but I just want them to have fun and feel like they are achieving, you know. And there's a myriad of ways we can go about and look about changing that. But that became the real changing point for me. I think when I really started to love teaching was, it was, if I can get somebody to feel that feeling of I've achieved something this week,
Hmm.
you know, then I've done my job, and it makes me feel good as well. So yeah.
Yeah, man, you've hit the nail on the head, really. I mean, I agree with you, and I think it is the same. I find that my students sometimes they make, like as you said, these little improvements, and over time they add up to big improvements. I often find that they find it. Some students find it very difficult to see this themselves.
Mm.
Like I say to them, like, you know, that's amazing, that's really really cool, that's way better than it was last time I saw you, and we're really well done on that. Sometimes they really struggle, and I don't know if that's because they're in the practice room all of the time, you know, by themselves. They don't notice the improvements. I don't know, but sometimes they really struggle to sort of you know, to see those improvements. Like, are you serious? Like, that is really great. That's a
Yeah.
million miles away from what it was last time.
I mean, the
Um,
comparison I can make is you and me, you know, you currently and me at a previous time, we were quite big gym people, you know.
mhm.
So, and I compare it to that. Whilst I was in the gym and I was regularly working out, and I would go back and, you know, study my body day after day, you know, and see, oh, have I got definition here, or am I building muscle here, or am I losing weight here, you know. You don't see it, and you feel like you're working endlessly for it. You do see it, but you know what it's like. You see it in very small increments. It's really small, and then you look back at a picture of yourself from like a year ago or 2 years ago, and then you can see the change, but you can't see it wholly on the day to day. And I think because you do have to pay attention to it and practice every day to get that improvement, you don't see it until
No.
you watch a video of yourself a year later, and then watch your playing now, and you go, no, 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 I have improved. But it's just more and more like towards like, we just got to enjoy the journey. You know, it's such a massive thing of just you know, you're striving for that little bit of improvement and that reward of, I did something and I put the time aside and everything. I think that's the biggest thing, really.
Yeah, and that's a really important thing you said there. Enjoy the journey. because I encounter students that I don't know sometimes feel like it's a race. They're like, give me as much information as you can give me, like now, and I want to play like you can play like now, and it's maybe I've played for like 3 years, they've played for 3 years or something. I'm like, we're not going to do that because there's a lot of stuff that you'll learn, throughout your journey
And
and throughout
I
your experience.
I totally empathize with that because I went to music college,
Hmm.
and I remember what going to music college felt like. That felt like you've got 3 years, be good now,
Hmm.
in like 3 years, because you go into music college all at different levels. Some people are good at some things, and some people are good at other things. And that is I think music colleges are good. That is my one gripe with them is I don't think there's enough celebration of different abilities. I feel like when I went to music college, it was a bit like the guys who could shred
Hmm.
got a lot of the work, and the guys who were maybe good writers or rhythm players, they didn't at the time, and I think that set a bad precedent necessarily for people coming in and for people looking at the course. I think that because I'll tell you now, like having left the course now, some of the most successful people that left my year at university um, are the people who during that time were the lower, if you had to call it a pecking order, were the lower down players.
Okay.
They're now, um, in some of the most successful bands and touring around and doing things. And again, if we'd believed the pecking order of the that had been set out of the, well, this guy is as amazingly talented and you're growing, so you're too late, then they would have, imagined the careers we wouldn't have seen. I think that's
Yeah.
quite,
It
quite.
may be as well that the fact that those people you're saying like the shredders and that were getting all of the work and things like that, and they were sort of sat on a bit of the back bench. It may be that made them harder. It made them like, oh no, I want to be
Drove
doing
them on a
getting that
little bit.
extra. Yeah, exactly. Like I want
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
getting
but
that work and
also to work on their own, skills, because I wouldn't say those guitar players that were lower they became shredders later.
no.
They just worked out what their area was.
Hmm.
Went, okay, I might not do that, but I'm good at this, so I'm gonna do this, and then from through doing that, found their way. So there's a real thing about, you know you got to improve your weaknesses for sure, but I think there is a real thing about, you know be proud of your strengths and cultivate those too. I think there's a balance to be struck up between the two, definitely.
I've got a question for you, Ashley, on that
Huh?
subject. Um, do you think how important do you think it is to find your area of specialism, like in guitar, whatever bass or whatever you play? Do you feel like it's important to be able to do everything, or try and do your best to do everything, all different genres, different styles, different techniques, or do you feel like it's really important to go right? I'm a blues guy. This is what I do. I play blues licks. I do. Do you feel that's is
It's a
important or?
really great question. So my opinion on this has changed as the years has gone on. Okay, and I think it all boils down to what you want to do. Like, what if you're going? Let's say if you're a career person, if you're doing it as like a you just want to play the guitar, then by all means lean into your joys. You as you and I know with students, one of the biggest things is just getting a student in time to, or in a situation where they want to pick up the guitar
Hmm.
and they want to play it. That's at a student level. That's that. If you're going on a career side of things, like you want a gig or you want to do stuff like that, it really depends on the field you want to go into. I've changed as the years have gone on, and I'm in a bit of, truth be told, I'm in a bit of a transition now, between that. Um, I think it's good to learn a little bit about every single style, by all means, because they all feed back into each other. A lot of my favorite musicians are quote unquote pop artists, you could
Hmm.
say,
Yep.
but they've got things from other genres that they've gone through, they've looked and they've resonated with, and they've put, case in point, this is kind of quite apt. This works. I was just watching a video about 20 minutes ago, of Dave Grohl talking about how most of the Nirvana stuff, or most of the stuff he did on Nevermind, drum beats wise, was ripped off of the Gap Band, who were a 70s funk and disco group.
Okay.
you know
Yeah.
that he went and researched soul and disco and then brought that back into rock music. So it's good to learn, to learn different things. That being said, if you're going into artistry, or if you're going into being a songwriter, that thing you do, that you, first of all, that you're good at, and second of all that you care about, is so important, because that's identity. I'm actually experiencing a thing now where I've done functions and cover gigs for so many years that I've learned to be a bit like I'm sure you are, you know, I've learned to be a bit of a chameleon where it's like, okay, cool, this weekend. I think you spoke to Ryan last week as well, Ryan Davey, who's wonderful interview, by the way. Um, and he'd said the same thing. It's like one night you might be in a funk group, the next night you might be in like an R&B soul thing, the next night you're playing rock music, the next night you're doing, and you need to understand your genres to do that well.
Hmm.
But as an artist, it's all about finding that thing. I find there's an element of what's the word? You can't hide who you are, if that makes sense. So with
Yeah.
Weekend Warrior, which we'll get onto later, I'm not trying to shoehorn in too
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
but I find that really interesting because I've put that out, and people have kind of gone, "Oh, this isn't what I expected. You know, this isn't what I expected you to do." And I go, "Well, that's not funny because to me, that's who I am. That's like that music and that sound, and that's what comes out of me when I make music. That's what I sound like."
Hmm.
Every time I've tried to do it another way, or I've worked towards genre, I've always kind of failed at it, or it's never really worked. Whereas I think you can tell if I care about it, and you can tell if the sound is right. So I think there's benefits for both. I think if you want to be a career musician, just learn your genres. It's not bad to listen to loads of different music anyway.
Yes.
Um, but I think if you're trying to write and you're trying to, put yourself forward, you are the selling point. No one listens to the same music you do. No one has the same experience as you do. No one has the same um, life experience, lyrical writing. You know, that's what I love about songwriting when I do it. It's everybody does it differently and it's all absolutely valid.
Hmm.
Whereas guitar wise, we can turn guitar playing into a bit of a sport sometimes and go, oh, that guy's rhythm playing might not be as good as that guy's, or that guy's shredding might not be as good as that guy's, or
Yeah.
can do that because it's a bit of a service industry. But with songwriting, you don't have that. So there's sides for both. I don't know if I've answered your question there. I don't know whether I've made it made it really
You
clear.
did.
But I do think it's great to be versatile, but there is also something to be said. It takes a hell of a lot of confidence to stand there and just be like, this is me. This is what I do. You like it or you don't. And people
Yeah.
won't. Some people won't. Some people won't like it. Some people will, and that's cool. That's life as us as people, isn't it?
And that's fine, as you said. Like, if somebody doesn't like what you're doing or the music that you're doing, that's fine. That other people will. Like, it's okay. It's not to be offended or whatever. If somebody doesn't like the style of music or whatever it is, like, it's okay to not like it. And to you'll have other people that will really love it.
Yeah, I
Um,
still have people who like songs that I've done from about 20 years ago. That'd be a long time. From about like 5, 6 years ago, and I hate those songs.
yeah.
But I have people who come back to me and they go, I really love this. Like this was a big part of my life when you wrote this song or when I heard this song, and I go, I can't even listen to that now. It sounds so wide from. But this is what I mean. People make their own connections,
Yes.
and when people see what you don't see. So it's good to just kind of let that be a thing and go, okay, that's cool. You do that. That's absolutely fine.
That's good. I'm going to check because I always get deep into conversation,
That's okay.
Ashley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've
And
got.
if anyone's got any questions, for you, Ash, I'm just going to make sure this is all it's all working okay.
Mhm.
But if you have any questions for Ash, then please do drop them on there. I'm just seeing if it is
Switch my
going
phone
out.
off just while I'm doing that.
No, live. Where's? Let's just check. Yes, it is. It is. It's going out. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, it looks like there's some things there already. Let me just quickly check.
Cool.
This is brilliant. Wanting to do it now really resonates. Top work, gentlemen. So that's Paul Rycraft, one of my
Oh,
students there.
thanks, Paul.
So yeah, if anyone has any questions for Ash, then do drop them in the thread. And even if you drop it and you're off, got to be off to work or whatever, I'm sure you'll see that as well, and you'll
Yeah,
get
I'll
back
come
to
back
them.
and have a look at the comments. I'll comment surf. I'd be happy to answer anything. That'd be great.
Fantastic. So yes, there is a couple of people watching. So I think it may be Ryan. I'm not sure. I think Ryan Davey may be watching. But yeah, awesome. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, then please do drop them in there. So yeah, so I think that sort of covered teaching. It is a rewarding thing, and I think the same as you as well. You only said earlier you thought if I ever end up as a teacher, you felt like that was a sort of a failure a little bit as an artist. You thought that was going to be a bit of a failure.
Yeah.
But I'm quite surprised and taken back by the amount of top musicians that I know of or aware of, and they teach. They teach at like a university, teach at BIM, they teach ACM or wherever it is. Like they teach at different universities or colleges, and have their own private students as well as touring or being a musician.
Mm.
Um,
I
And
think the thing is with that. Sorry to
no, go
interject.
on.
I just want to make the point as well of like when you're teaching somebody, you're making a excuse me, you're making a very close connection with that person, you know, especially if you see them long term, and you are actively changing somebody's life. And when you think about what we aspire to in music and what we love in music we like to listen to, you know, quite a lot of us, we listen to songs and we go, that song found me at a certain point in my life, or this, you know, we get into music or we enjoy music because it makes us, you know, it makes us feel things and it helps, and it underpins certain times in our life, you know.
Hmm.
And as teachers, not to get too up it, but we do that on a more personable level. You know, you could have a number one hit or whatever. I could probably name you a load of artists that have put music out into the world, you know, had hits and sort of gone up as quick as they've gone down,
Yeah.
you know, and are forgotten about very quickly. Whereas musically teaching somebody, you've made an imprint on that person's life. You know, they're never going to forget that you taught them at that certain point in time, especially if they continue to do music. You're always going to be a part of their musical journey, and that's really, really, really valuable. And I just don't think it can be understated what you know, not just us as guitar teachers, but teachers in general. Like some of the most influential people in my life were school teachers. You know, people I had at school where you know the course I went into. I remember I had this one great music teacher who found the conservatoire. Mark Finch was his name. And he found the conservatoire that I went to, and you know, put me on that path and sent me there. And I can't. That's an immeasurable. Like my whole life has been painted from that. You know,
Yeah.
and all this guy probably thought he was doing was he was just at work another day and just doing saw something in a student and wanted to fill that in. So it just can't be understated what teachers do for people. I think it's really important to remember that we do
No, I
make a
agree.
profound effect even if we're not famous. You know.
I do agree, mate. It's a really big point. It's really, really good point. Um, question for you, Ash,
Go
because
on.
I've been thinking about this myself. Do you see yourself teaching in say you're in your 60s or 70s? Like, I've thought about this a lot recently, like thinking about like retiring as a musician. How do you do that? And like, you know, thinking for the future and things like that. Have you had to think about that? Like, I'm thinking, would I be able to teach when I'm like 60, 70, and I can't hardly hear probably anymore, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm maybe not so cool anymore to the younger kids because they don't want to come and see you so much anymore. What do you think about that? Like,
I
sort of
definitely
retiring.
can't think about it in this current economy. I've got to be honest, but, oh, I don't know. I do you know what? I don't have a good answer for you. I would say I probably haven't thought about it just
No.
yet. It is my honest opinion. There is gonna. I have thought about where would I diversify and where would I move to other other places and things
Hmm.
like that. But and it is important. I probably should think about it more. I hope to a point I'm always doing it. I think I will definitely do it in some capacity until I can't anymore, until my hands give up, or until like you said, my hearing goes or
Yeah.
whatever. I would because it does just enrich my life in such a way that I want that to continue. Um, but no, I haven't really thought about it. But you're right, it is a worth think about. I did think about going into university lecturing. My dad's a university lecturer now. He worked in
Okay.
business for a long time.
Yeah.
He worked at Hewlett Packard for 20 to 25 years or something, and he's just funnily enough taken off about a couple of years ago during the pandemic, got a teaching job at UWE, being a
Oh wow.
lecturer. Yeah, so we catch each other at work sometimes, and he enjoys it. I think he gets a bit stressed out with like people not turning up to certain lectures and stuff, but I just tell him that's just students. They just kind of do that.
Yeah.
But he enjoys it, and he from what I can gather, he's quite good at it. So there's that side of it too. There's university lecturing might be something I might get into, or I don't know. I really don't know. But it's a really good question. What have you thought about? What did you think
Well, I
you might
think
go into?
because am I right? Because you're a little bit younger than me, aren't you? So I'm 33. I
Yeah,
think you're a little bit young.
I'm 30 this year.
You're 30 this year. So I think that's all it is. I'm just a little bit further ahead in terms of my thinking about the future sort of thing. And
Mhm.
I've just had Buddy, so that changes perspective
Oh yeah,
massively.
yeah.
So I
Kids.
think that's the reason why the sort of the thought process has been going down that line. It's like, how am I going to retire? What am I going to do? What's the end goal? What's the plan? Not there has to be an end goal, but what's the plan? Like, what am I going to do? And I did think about that recently quite deeply about sort of if I do make it to my 70s, hopefully,
Mhm.
you know, would some of the young kids that come here and sort of, you know, I'm quite impressionable too, that they sort of turn up here and I'm now a 70-year-old guy, maybe with a stick. You know,
Yeah.
are they going to be so interested in having lessons? I don't know. It's maybe they will. Maybe as long as the quality of the tuition's good, still they might be interested in that. But it's just a thought that's gone through my mind, and I
I think
don't really.
you've got the benefit as well because you run a business. I think, you know, what years do give you is business experience. So I
Mhm.
think even if you were to continue, you know, I've worked for you for 5 years. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you're a great person to work for. So I think that in itself, you know, you could diversify your business and maybe take a step back role. I just finished actually last year working for a Bee Gees tribute band that was doing, you know,
I remember that. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
remember you doing
tours
that.
around the UK, and you know, we'd regularly have conversations in that band, you know, about because the guys in that band were, you know, knocking on their 60s, and you know, touring's a lot, and they were going, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and they were even talking about, you know, taking a step back, still organizing the shows and everything, but hiring people in their place to go and be the Bee Gees for them, you
Hmm.
know, and doing it that way, which I think is a great idea because I mean, I got to be honest, even at my age, like I hate all the business stuff. I
Yeah,
hate the organizing and everything. I would love somebody to just go, okay, here's your pay, here's this, da 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 da. You're going here. We're organizing all of this. All you need to do is turn up, play, and go home. And if the other person has to charge a bit more and take a bit more, you
hmm,
know, because
yeah,
they're running a business, so be it. I see nothing wrong with that. I think that's the one thing age does give you is business experience. You know, you're better at delegating and things like that.
that's good. I mean, that's a really good slick link, Ash, into the live performance stuff there, like that. Um,
It
s-
wasn't intended. I'm not doing
can
it
we
anymore.
can we can we talk about that? So we'll start. I know you've done other things live in that, and you've depth for different bands and things like that. But can we start? The Bee Gees thing was really interesting. Can we start with that? Because how did you find touring live and doing that? Because that was quite a
So
hefty job for you, I think, in terms of.
yeah, it was great. It was great experience. So that I'll get into how I got into it first. So I had a few friends who were like Ryan and people like that. There's a bit of a community of us,
Yeah.
and one of those friends is a guy called Graham Foy, amazing guitar player, a really great guy as well. And I think he'd been doing that show. I think somebody told me when I started he'd been doing that show for 12 years or something like that. It had been a really long time, and he wanted to get into another job. I think he was doing some TV stuff, so he needed cover. And you know, it sort of went through a few people, and then it came to me. And I was a little bit like, I don't really know whether I can do it. You know, that was a thing that came up. You know, I did have moments where I was like, am I the right person for this job? Have I got the skills to be able to do this well? And yeah, and then we started touring in February, and then I did that through to about the end of October. But it was just going around different venues and stuff like that, and playing. It's quite weird actually, because I mean, wedding sets are one thing. We have got people there, you know,
Yep.
we're entertaining pre-set guests. It's a bit of a trip to do gigs where they've sold tickets and actually sold it out, and you're playing sold out shows. That's a bit of a, you know, I'll be honest, you know, I'm like I said, I'm 30 this year. That was a new one for me. It took some getting used to. Um, but we played some amazing places. I think the biggest one we played was played Glasgow Concert Hall, which I think was, from memory, I want to say it was like 2,000, 3,000 cap or something like that. And I think most of it was definitely, you know, the everything but the gods was sold, and very big stage. And yeah, it was cool. It was a cool experience. It was touring is I bring it back again. Touring is hard.
Hmm.
This is again one of those things that I don't think, you know, your regular 9 to 5 jobs will understand. Is um I think if we were just supposed to play the show and that was it, we would almost do it for free. Because that's the fun bit. Everyone loves that. The stuff that's hard is their long days. So you know, you're getting up at, you know, sometimes 6 in the morning to get in the car. We would leave from sort of Yatton, which is just a little bit out from Bristol. We would leave there, and then we drive to wherever in the country that was. So that could be Manchester, that could be, um, you know, Scotland. We did, you know, and then you would get to the venue for 2 o'clock, do your sound check, hang about in the dressing room until about 7 when you do the show. Your show goes 7 till 10, and then at 10 o'clock you're packing all your gear away. You get in the car, you go back to the travel lodge, you sleep in the travel lodge, you get up at 12, you repeat, and you do that for sometimes 3 or 4 days at a time.
Mm.
And that was ultimately what sort of ended it for me. I enjoyed it, but the problem was I couldn't operate because I was so tired by the end of a 3 or 4 show run
Yeah.
that I found that my teaching and other jobs that I had was suffering in quality just because I just didn't, I just didn't have the bounce back. I couldn't go and do these 4 shows and then go and teach and teach in a capacity that I thought was fair to my students. I thought I was tired and
Yes.
not really doing the best job, and ultimately that show will go and it will keep going until it can. And this is the other thing that people forget: gigs and tours and things, they end like that. They stop very quickly. So if someone in the band goes, I don't want to do it anymore, or the singers go, I've got an injury and I can't do it, that's it, your work's gone. You've got no work for 6 months, which we don't have that with schools or teaching and things like that. We can diversify, and so it wasn't very safe
Mm.
either. So that ultimately sort of ended it for me. But I really enjoyed it, and it was an experience, and it's a cool thing now, I will say, to be able to watch people doing theatre shows, because I have a lot of musician friends. They all do things, and I used to look at that and view it with a certain lens. I used
Mhm.
to view people doing theatre shows and go, "Oh, what do I have to be to get to the level that I'm seen as suitable for that job?" I sort of do that, and now you see it and you go, "Cool, cool for
Yeah.
them. That's awesome. I don't want to do it anymore, but that's cool that they do that."
Let's get back to your first point, Ash, because you mentioned something, and I was going to pick you up on it. But um,
Sorry, I will just go until you
no,
actually.
no, that's fine. You mentioned like when that first came through, the first call came through, and you sort of questioned yourself and thought, oh, "Am I up to this? Can I do this?"
Mhm.
I do that. Why do we do that? Like, it's a self doubt thing, isn't it? And I've talked myself out of work over the year, and I'm sure you've done the same. I talk myself out of work to the
Mm.
point where I go, well, I'm not sure the right guy for this. Can I learn these songs in that amount of time? Can I do this? And literally, the answer to most of those questions is yes, but I'm constantly going, no, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. And I'll talk myself out of work quite a lot. Um,
I think there's a lot of different contributing factors to it. I think a lot of it is a respect thing. If anybody knows Graham Foy, he's an incredible guitar player. He is just out of this world good, um, as is Ryan. And again, they sort of fit into this kind of shredder place. They can burn it up if they need to, and they're great
Mhm.
rhythm players and they're great all rounders. I'm I'm not that. I'm a solid blues player, and my rhythm playing is probably where I would tip my hat. I think I'm a very very good rhythm player and songwriter, and I'm good at band knowing where I fit in a band.
Mhm.
I'm good at finding my slot and going, okay, right, I'm going to do this, and I need to do what is the. It sounds lazy. I don't mean it sound lazy. It's actually what you're supposed to think. It's what is the smallest amount I can do in this space to make this band sound better, because as you know, when you get to a certain point, we learn everything, and then we learn points, basically go, okay, how much can I streamline this back? And I found that doing the Bee Gees show, it was like, when I started, I learned everything to the nth degree. I charted everything, I went in, learned everything I could, and then as we were going through it, I started at the same time as a new drummer did as well, and we both were saying to each other on shows, you know oh, that felt better, or that felt better, why did that feel better? And the other one would go, oh, that's probably because I played less, I did less here, or I did
Okay.
less there, or I pulled this back. And that is it. We got nothing to prove. We're playing Bee Gees music. People aren't there to you know to herald the musicians. They're there to just sink back into whatever that sound was that they remember. And it'll even be things like, maybe I did like a rhythm pattern where I went ja ja da ga da ga, and I didn't need to do that. Maybe the next time I go da da ba ba ba, or something like that, and I pull a beat out, and it makes everything collectively sound more solid because there's less going on and less to distract the ear. So that was a really valid lesson from that, and that was where I was able to go, okay, no, I'm a suitable person
Mm.
for this job. And again, I think if you go back to Ryan's interview last week, I think a big part of it is, if if you're being punctual, if you're on time, if you're learning your stuff, why wouldn't you be the right person? If
Yeah.
you're not the right person, they're going to tell you. But I sort of already had the tip of the hat from Graham to go, this guy, use this guy, almost to the point where when I started, that they were so busy with just trying to keep the show going as well. They didn't have the time to go, is this guy right or not? You know? So, and then before you think about it, you blink and 3 months have gone by and
Yeah.
you're going, you're doing it, and you are the person, you are the guy in that band. I'm sure the guy that came in after me felt exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Was like, am I the right person? Because it's scary, it's a big show.
Yes.
It's doing numbers. So,
How
yeah.
many songs was it to learn, Ash? When you got given the songs, how many was it you had to learn?
When I started, it was definitely 30. It was definitely 30 tunes, and then we would add more as kind of the weeks would go on. So the way that show worked was the second half of the set, there was one song in it that changed. They would change the first song of the second set. I'm giving away the industry secrets here. So they would change the opening song of the set. So they would either do, depending on what they opened the set with, they would change what they opened the second half with.
Okay.
But other than that, once you got that past that first one, it was always the same second set. It never changed. It was always these songs in this order. The bit where it changed was in the first half. The first half was the deep cuts or the old 60s stuff. Because I don't know if you know this about the Bee Gees. You go to a Bee Gees gig expecting it to be a night of disco. There was only one album's worth of it.
Okay.
So there's only enough to fill not even a half like not even an hour.
I wasn't even sure if I knew when you said 30, 35 songs or whatever. I wasn't even sure if I knew 35. I don't know if I could list off 35 Bee Gees songs, but
no, like all the Saturday Night Fever stuff was it filled about half of the second set.
Yeah.
That was it, and then everything else was like it's like deep cut ballads and things like "Run to You" or "Run to Me." Sorry, would be a song by them, or New York Mining Disaster, or just like really like this is like really early Bee Gees stuff, and that was where you sort of earned your keep. Also, if anybody wants to check out some Bee Gees stuff and hear something different, check out an album called One, which was in the 90s. So I didn't know anything about this record until I started doing the gig, and it came out in like the late 80s. I want to say it was 88 or something like that. But it was very shreddy, very very shred rock. Songs like One, and there was one song in the set that used to freak me out every night, which was called ESP.
Okay.
Has this shredding crazy guitar solo in it, which depending on how I was feeling on the show would go well or not go well. I just had to make sure I started the bend in the right place, and then I'd be fine. But there were some nights where I missed the bend and the solo went completely all over the place. And I had it, and it was, but it was interesting. So I loved getting into it as well. I loved getting into like the minutia of because they were a different, the Bee Gees have been like 3 different bands in technically,
What was your favorite one to perform, Ash? What was your favorite song?
Oh, that's a good question. I liked One. There was a song called One, which was kind of like a sort of a dancey reggae-ish tune. I really enjoyed that one. It was relatively simple to get through. It's funny because there are some that I really liked, but I hated performing them because Bee Gees stuff is like ABBA stuff. It's quite harmonically complex, so you've got to be switched on and you've got to know a little bit of your theory to know how things move. And there was one song we used to do called Turn of the Century, which was great. It was a really great song, but it changed key about 4 or 5 times. So I had to know where I was, and I'm reading charts while trying to get through it. And it was a bit of like, I love the sound of it. To listen to it, I love listening to it. To play it, I was a little bit like doing this in front of 500, 600 people is a little bit nauseating, but I can get through it. So I'd say One off of the One album was a favorite of mine, definitely.
I'm a hits guy. It'd have to be one of the cheesy Bee Gees ones. I think that would be enjoyable for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, not Nights on Broadway was always great.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance, just from this is to you yourself as well. If you get a chance to look through the chord progression of How Deep Is Your Love?
Yes, I've taught that. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's so beautiful to go through and just watch how everything folds into each other, and it's just a perfect masterclass in using theory in a pop song in a way that isn't obviously moving around all the time. It's just really beautiful to play. And I think Graham actually, before I started, was the same. He was like, yeah, absolutely. How Deep Is Your Love is just, every time I play it, it's just so fun.
If Mark Kennedy, who's potentially might watch this in a later date, I think you know Mark actually. I think one of my students.
Yeah, I've met Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he watches this at a later date, he was the student that I gave that to, and Mark's Mark loves his blues and his rock like we all do. And I remember I did something different for him on that lesson. I gave him "How Deep Is Your Love" and I gave him that song just for the chords itself. And he initially looked at me and went, "Are you serious? Like, are
Yeah,
you giving me this?"
yeah. You're having a laugh.
And
Yeah.
actually, after that, and he gave it a week or so, he actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really fun. It's really fun. I love that as well. Like during the pandemic, I really got into my theory and especially artists that I love, like Billy Joel and Elton John as well. And those are like artists who they know their stuff, they know their theory, they know exactly what they're doing, but they do it in such a way where the average casual listener doesn't know it's changing. I
mhm,
can't stand this is a pet peeve of mine. I can't stand music that's too thought about or too theory based.
right.
It's why I struggle with a lot of like big guitar bands and things at the moment because it tends to be very like look at what we can do, look at the theory, look, oh, we've moved this key change, or we've moved this, or we've moved that. And to me, that's the antithesis of why I got into music. I got into music because I like tunes and I like progressions, you know? So I like music that can do that, but not, but make you not notice it's happening, you know?
On that note, then, what's your thoughts on? Is it the band? I think Polyphia. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, I don't get it. I'll be honest. I don't get it. I am old as well. I'll say that. I am 30, so I don't think I'm supposed to necessarily get it. Um, it's technically amazing and I respect it. I respect it in the same way that I respect, Jimi Hendrix or Eddie Van Halen or things
Hmm.
like that. They are innovating. I can't say they're not. They're moving the guitar forward immensely. Would I listen to it casually? No, probably not. You know,
I'm on the same bench as you. I'm glad that you said that.
yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I,
But
I
it's
same as you.
awesome. It's like it's cool to see people doing different stuff. I'm not supposed to get it, you know. I'm not supposed to understand everything. And maybe one day I will get it. But I did have a little bit of a backtrack with it the other day when I was watching Matteo Sasato on YouTube do a like a finger tapping thing of that song by Owl City Fireflies. I don't know if you remember that song,
Yeah, I know that song. Yeah.
but he did like a finger tapping thing, and it was all of the Tim Henson Polyphia stuff. And I kind of went, okay, if you look at it, it's kind of all it is really is it's like remember Tommy Emmanuel and Andy McKee and all of that kind of
Yeah.
acoustic stuff. It's just that on an electric guitar, moved over and made to sound, like music. So I respect it. It's a tool. It's a tool for making more music. Not necessarily a tool I'm going to use to make music, but it is there, and I think
I,
it's
I agree. I agree with you, Ash. Like I completely agree with what you said as well. Like I respect it. I think it's amazing. Like I see it and I'm like, that's incredible. I don't think I'd be able to go. Maybe I would be able to watch a concert just for the interest value of watching it.
yeah.
But I think I probably, I wouldn't enjoy it so much.
I
I
mean, I'm
just
the worst for technical music anyway. I've constantly told people I'm gonna offend some people. I'm sorry, but I've constantly told people that Joe Satriani was the most boring concert I've ever been to in my life.
I've
Uh,
said this to you. I've
yeah,
had this conversation with you about
David, we
this.
had the same conversation. I went to see Joe Satriani at the Colston Hall when I was like 18, and me and my dad were just waiting for a gap in the show to leave because just too much shred. He played for like 2.5 hours. It's too
Mhm.
much. Couldn't do it.
I wanted a vote. I know I'm silly going to a Joe Satriani concert and wanting a vocal,
Mm,
but because you're not going to get that. But I sort of wanted that. Halfway through, I was just like, I just want to hear like a vocal now. I want to hear like someone to sing something.
yeah.
And that's why when I went to watch him, I don't know if it's the same concert as you, but Paul Gilbert was his support. Um,
So my support, I remember my support because I enjoyed it more. It was Matt Schofield, and he was
okay.
amazing. And what was quite cool as well is a couple of years later, I write for Els Bailey, now local artist, and she plays with Johnny Henderson, who was the keyboard player at that gig
Oh
supporting
wow.
Joe Satriani. So I've had quite a few chats with Johnny about, and Johnny plays with like Robin Ford and people when they come to town as well. So that's been quite a cool little turnaround because I do remember enjoying Matt Schofield a lot. But he only played for half an hour. Maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it if he carried on. Who knows?
Because I enjoyed Paul Gilbert because Paul Gilbert's a shredder, but like a really tasteful shredder. I find like a bluesy, rocky sort of shredder. But he sang, so that's why I liked it. I felt like that was like I think that was the first time I saw Paul Gilbert actually, or was turned on to him, and he sang,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not really known for being a huge vocalist, but because he sang to begin with, I wanted that again. Like it was him to start, and then Chad Satriani came on and did his bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it was amazing, like technically amazing, like really amazing stuff. Like, but I just wanted to, I wanted to hear some vocals again. Maybe it's just a preference. I like band music. I like music with vocals, melody lines.
Breaks it up, doesn't it? It gives the ear something else to listen to. It's like you don't want to eat chocolate all the time.
No,
You want chocolate at the end of your meal, but you don't necessarily want it every single. Sometimes you got to have a starter, and I feel like vocal melodies are that as well. They're different different forms of nourishment for your ear.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Well, let's talk about the sort of the mental health aspect of music and being a musician, and then we'll leave it with the Weekend Warrior, which is the bit
Cool.
I'm really excited to talk to you about, and I'm sure you're excited to talk about the
Yeah.
project as well. But let's yeah. So as a musician, Ash, as you probably know, there's lots of challenges in lifestyle. Like we're often, as you said, touring or often gigging late in the evening, and when you come home, it's like early hours in the morning, and it affects your sleep, things like that. And if it affects your sleep, then it can affect your day.
Hmm.
How do you keep on like a straight and narrow? How do you keep your things sort of in check and sort of keep yourself
So
functioning?
I will say that it's something you have to practice, like practicing your instrument,
Hmm.
and you have to be disciplined on practicing they're buzzwords at the minute, but like self-care
Yep.
and self-love and things like that. These are massive things, and you do have to put the time in, and they're not always easy to do. I think I quite often I hear people talking about like self-care. It's not as easy as like taking a bubble bath or burning some candles or things like that. It's not that simple. It's knowing what it feels like when you're at your point of burnout, or when you're about to burn out, and then kind of stepping back and going, right, I need, like I do it now, where I can go for a few days or a week or so, and then I do have a thing where I go, I need a clear day. I need just one day,
Yep.
just so that, not even that necessarily that I'm going to veg out on the sofa all day, but just that I can do the things that internally I want to do, or that make me feel like I'm moving forward. Exercise is another big one. I always notice that I am better equipped if I'm going to the gym regularly for my mental state as well. I've
Hmm.
stopped kind of looking at my body and hyper analyzing my body, because I did that. We did a podcast ages and ages ago, and I remember talking to you about um, having like a little bit of like a body dysmorphia ish kind of thing when I was at university,
I
where
remember you talking
I
about
was
that.
a bit
Yeah.
of a chubby kid, and I did think because of my weight I wouldn't get gigs, and I had that issue, and I'm quite happy to say I've sort of grown past that now and been able to go, but I still think exercise is important, because whenever I've tried to do it for body results, I've burnt out and I've got stressed and I've not done it.
Yep.
Whereas whenever I've tried to do it from a point of, this is what I do to keep my brain healthy and malleable and deal with it, then I can stick to it better.
Yep.
So there's that. There's seeing friends. It's really, really like hard to explain, but when you're going and going and going and you're gigging all the time, it can feel like we are spending a lot of time with our friends, because people in the bands are our friends, right? Like, we're playing music with people we like, we're playing music with people we spend time with. But a lot of my friends who have jobs, quote unquote jobs, they don't work with their friends. They work with their friends, and then they have friends outside of work,
Yep.
to have that kind of disconnect. And I think that is also really important. A couple of years ago, so I was gigging with a function band a lot, pretty much between the ages of 22 to about 27. I had a band, and the guys in that band are still some of my best friends today. Stereo Jacks, they were, we still catch up. Kit is actually mixed most, our singer mixed most of the Weekend Warrior stuff.
They're
So we
still
still,
going now, aren't they? Stereo Jacks
yeah,
are still
oh yeah,
going.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I'm depping with them in July. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to stepping back in. Um, but this was the thing. Yes, we're all friends, and yes, we get on, and yes, if I could call them and we could have a chat. But most of the time, because we gigged so much, if we were gonna like have a night off, 3 out of 4 members of the band were like married, so they're going to stay in with their wives.
Yep.
Then it comes to me on a Saturday night, and then I got to the point where I was going and doing gigs just because I was like, please don't let me sit in my own space. I can't be alone anymore. It's just like, it's just stressing me out. And then when I started taking a step back from gigs, I actually found a social circle from this Brit Bar Weston-super-Mare thing. I got to know a few people, and I got to know people who weren't in music, who were on different hours, who I was able then to go and have coffees with and go and talk to, and just just remember that I'm not just a musician, I'm a person,
Yep.
and that just that phrase in itself, if you take anything away from this interview, if you are a musician and you're listening to, I think that's really valuable. You're a person. That is enough of a thing to be, All right, you're musical as well, but I put everything into me being a musician. I was like, I'm a musician, I'm musical, I'm this, I'm that. I still do it now. Whereas when I took a step back and actually started spending time with people who just wanted to be around me because they like who I am and I like
Hmm.
who they are,
Hmm.
and my self-worth and how I felt about myself started to get better. And then even to the point where now I can think about not being a musician one day and that being okay. I don't want that, but but if that happened, it's all right, you
Yeah.
know. And it's things like that because we get tired, we get burnt out, we don't get gigs, we get rejected for things, you know.
Hmm.
We It's our job. I said to someone the other day as well because I've got a lot of friends, again, not calling anyone out in particular, a lot of people who are musicians have mental health problems, some undiagnosed, you know, but you can see it as you talk to them. You can see they've got stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them for that. Or no, I wouldn't blame anyone for that, but you know what I mean? Like it makes sense how they've got it. They do a career where their way of making money is people liking what they do. That
Hmm.
is intense pressure. That's massive. Like
Yeah.
that's such a you can't just go to work, do your thing, go, that's all right, and then go home and then just go, I'm still valid. You
Hmm.
know, you being the best at what you do, someone has to literally go, I like you, I'll pay money to come and see you, you
Yeah.
know? And then based on that, you go, cool, I've got money, now I can live, now I can be a person. And it's a bit of a weird dynamic, don't you think? It's a
Yeah.
bit weird.
It
It's
is,
going to
and
play havoc, you know?
I feel social media plays a huge part of this as well because
Oh, massive,
being
yeah.
an artist, if you put something out or something you're really proud of, may have spent like 6 months working on this track,
Mm,
and you drop it and you put it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you put it, YouTube, or do a video of it or whatever, and it gets 2 likes,
mm,
you know, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, you spent so much, you know,
yeah.
it's a horrible thing. Like, and I felt that before in the past as well. You like spend ages. I created a course a long time ago. I spent ages creating this course. Like, I got so much time not getting paid, spending hours and hours putting this together, and it landed, but it didn't land in a way I was expecting it to land.
No.
And
And
then you,
this is the thing that these things, I've said this to a couple of other friends who are artists, you know, recently.
yeah,
Nothing ever looks the way you think it will when you're releasing stuff. It
no,
never does. So you might as well kind of bank on. So case in point, I did it. I did it with the last Weekend Warrior release, which you know we're galloping towards the point. I'm just aware of your
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. No, I was gonna say if anyone's got any questions as well, because there's a few people watching now. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if anyone
But
has any questions, drop them. I'll try and keep an eye on it. I know I get deep in conversation with you, Ash, but I'm trying to
that's
keep
all
an eye
right.
on that
That's
as well.
fine. With
Mark Kennedy's watching.
so with the Weekend Warrior stuff, I did that. So we released our first single um, last month, and I spent a long time on it. You know, we've produced everything ourselves. It's not even to the point where we've gone and recorded it and done it. We produced everything ourselves. I've done all the guitars in this room and the vocals here. The bass was done at a friend's house. Our drummer Migs, we did it at his like lockout studio. We sent it. We spent a lot of time on it, right? And we released it. And I think on release day, I put out one post. This is kind of funny when you think about it. The post I put out to say I'm releasing new music on Friday got more traction and more interest than the actual post did when it went out on the Friday.
Yeah.
It had more likes that people were excited about the concept of something happening than the actual thing itself got, you know?
Hmm.
And I messed it up. I went to Els because I speak to Els Bailey quite a lot about like releasing music and doing stuff, and I messed that up because that was a thing of I said, oh, you know, I want to pitch this to Spotify playlists and it's out. How do I do it? And she went, oh, you're actually supposed to do that
Or before.
before releasing it. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to do it after it's done. Oh, okay, right. But again, I learned from that.
Yeah.
Now for the next one, our next single that's coming out this month, I know to do that, and I know those lessons. But no, it doesn't look like it does. But can I still look at that, or can I still listen back to that track and go, I made this. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, yeah, I can. You know, and again, it's about where you with releasing and mental health and things like that. It's about where you place your mind and where you place your, you know, I think if you're putting out music or you're putting stuff out and you want the world to go, oh my god, this has changed my life, you know, this is everything to me. Like because of your music, I left my bad relationship and I quit my job and now I'm raising chimpanzees in Africa, living my best life. Go, you know, that's not gonna happen. But
No.
I'm being deliberately facetious. But like if you do it, you kind of have to do it selfishly. It sounds really weird to do because you're putting out something for other people, but you do have to be selfish and go,
Mm.
I'm doing this because I want to do it. I don't care and putting the time towards it. I have one day a week where I write. I have like one day blocked out every week where I go, this is my writing day. This is the day where I put stuff down. I try and complete a song. Maybe that's for me, maybe that's for somebody else. Um, and I book time out and I do that on purpose, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, it's annoying. Yes, sometimes I'm like, I wish I should really go to work for another day today for more money, or I should, but that's not giving it the time it needs, and then that's not giving my mental space. Because if I don't do music, if I don't write music for a long time, I get sad. I get really down, you
Yeah.
know. I go into a spiral and I have a horrible existential crisis and what am I doing and stuff. Same with the gym. If I don't go to the gym for a long time, they're all just, it's little and often, you know. Do a little bit, you put something out, you go, cool, that's out, here's the next one. And another point I want to just circle back to that you said about your when you did your course,
Yeah.
right? A lot of this stuff has like a burnout effect. So sometimes you put stuff out, or like, and at the moment of its release, people don't necessarily see it.
Mhm.
But because it's out on the internet, it's always out on the internet, and especially
Yeah.
if it's in like a public free facing space. Case in point, I did YouTube videos for a little while when they're still up. Like I did like cover videos when I was in my early 20s, and I did one every week. And I remember getting just stressed because I would put video out and the view counts were going down and down and down as they were going, not because they were bad, just because people were losing interest.
Yeah.
And then I went back and looked at one. I found one the other day, and one of them had something like 20,000 views, 25,000 or something. And I just arbitrarily picked a song I'd done for a wedding, covered it, and I'd covered it in such a way that people had really liked it. People were from all over the country, like all over, not country, but all over the world, were messaging me, asking me to send them the MP3 so they could use it for their wedding.
Yeah.
It's like that. And that took years, you know.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite bands as well. I always talk about this band called Reuben. Do you ever listen to Reuben when they were about?
No, I've not.
Great band. They were kind of I don't even know how to. They're kind of post-punk, hardcore a little bit, you know. They had 3 albums, and at the time they released their third album, they were really like on their way out. Like they just were losing traction. And I've watched Jamie Lenman, the singer, talk about it. As soon as the band split up, about 5 years later, everyone was obsessed with Reuben. Everyone just loved it. They were like regular, you know. Jamie Lenman himself is a regular at 2000 Trees Festival, which is a big UK festival. You know, they were on Extra Mile, which is Frank Turner's label. You know, they're massive, but that was 5 years after the fact
the
that
event.
they would. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you never know when stuff's gonna, which is why I'm still about like, just put it out, just put stuff out into the universe, because you don't know when it's gonna get picked up, when it's gonna, you know. And hopefully by the time, this is the sad thing about doing the cover videos, if I'd still been doing it now, if I'd carried on all that time, my traction probably massive,
Yeah.
you know. But I stopped, so there's nothing new for anyone to go and check out of that apart from what I'm doing now, you know.
I think sometimes as well, Ash, like going back to the social media side of things, a lot of it is the algorithm. It's not always about content that, you know, what you're putting out is not good or that people don't like it. Facebook and Instagram can be, the algorithm can just be like, nah, we don't like that, or we don't, you know, we're not going to put that to a bigger audience. Because I know that I've had stuff land and I've gone, why the hell did that video go like really crazy? I did an Instagram reel and it was about 20 seconds long and it had like 85,000 views, and I've never had that. And then and then you do another one, it's got like 500 views, you know, 300 views. And I think sometimes you get squished by the, I don't know, the algorithm, something they like about the post or whatever. I feel like sometimes it's not the fact that what you're doing is not good. It's just that, you know, algorithm of Facebook and Instagram necessarily doesn't.
Or you catch a trend, you know.
Yeah.
There was probably someone that did a cover of what's that song that just got massive because of that Wednesday series on Netflix? Is it Yeah Yeah Yeahs or the Cramps?
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
whatever it is, I'm sure there's somebody who did a cover of the Cramps 5 years ago.
Yep.
That like didn't think anything of it, just put it out, and because that series has just lopped onto that song, it is now thousands of views. You know, you just don't know. It's just, which is why it's still just a thing of just put it out, just release it, see what happens. You know,
it's like the running up the hill Stranger Things thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? If you jumped on that super early as that was going, like as that episode was airing, you know, I'm sure now you would have.
I did a
thousands.
cover of it, and it did better than, you know,
Yeah.
not before it, but while it, you know, months after the fact, and it did better than, you know, just because of, like you said, public.
Trends and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, look, Ash, I said I'm conscious of time as well, your time as well. So let's talk about Weekend Warrior, because that
Great.
is that's your project at the moment, and that's the bit you're excited about as well, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
how did this come together? What have we
Um,
got released at the moment, and what have we got? What have we got to look forward to? Are there some shows coming up, and there are some more
so no
releases?
no shows as of yet. We're at the moment we're just we're focusing on releasing a back catalogue. So we want to get like an EP's worth of stuff out. But the way it came about was during the pandemic, I was like everybody else, like bouncing off the walls, trying to find ways to calm down and not worry about future, past, present, etc. And one thing I found I did do was I reverted a lot to a certain style of music. I needed comfort. You know, I couldn't necessarily take on new music or find new stuff. I just wanted to go back to what made me feel most creative, and that was bands like Jimmy Eat World, The Starting Line, um, early Foo Fighters, All American Rejects, uh, Dashboard Confessional, that kind of emo alternative rock,
Hmm.
early 2000s. I hasten to say the word pop punk. I find that kind of misses the point a little bit. Pop punk to me is a bit of a different thing, but definitely the emo thing and the alternate rock stuff. And I started writing music like that, and then I ended up with quite a few songs, and then they all kind of sounded quite coherent. And then I was like, I want this to be I could do this as a band side project, because I've been writing songs for people for a long time, but not put anything out by like myself.
Hmm.
Um, just going to do a very quick plug as well for, like I said, if anybody's not checked her out, Els Bailey's a fantastic blues artist. I write songs with her. I've had 3 releases on the last 2 albums, and her recent record, Shining in the Half Light, is amazing. There's 3 songs on it. Um, and there's one song on there that I wrote with her that is called, with her and Will Edmonds, and it was called Halfway House, which
Okay.
is a different side of my writing. So if you go back and listen to like Weekend Warrior stuff versus that, it is very different.
Hmm.
But that's how Weekend Warrior was born. It's like I do the kind of country soul pop thing for other people, and then when I kind of try and make music myself, it always comes out as like 2000s alt rock. So that was why, you know, we put together Weekend Warrior, and then I got chatting. You know, I sent it to a couple of my friends and was like, I'm thinking about making this a band. And then they were all like, yeah, we'd love to do that. We did a show. We did 2 shows. We did one show um, in Weston that kind of, it was like a bit of a scratch thing. We threw it together,
Was
and
that
then
at the Brit Bar? Was that?
that was at the Brit Bar, and then we
Yep.
did the Brit Bar last year again for like a midweek event, just to kind of test it and be like, is this something that, you know, we can do and that people will turn up to, and that we'll have, and all 4 of us were just kind of like, yeah, this is, they keep saying to me now, you know, they keep coming up to me afterwards and going, we really killed that show, when are we doing another one? So the musicians were excited about it as well as I was excited about it.
Who are
So
the musicians on this project, Ash?
I our so our guitar players are, it's me
Yep.
and Daniel Barry, Babsy to those who know him, and he's in a band called Holy Youth Movement at the minute, like a really cool kind of trip hop kind of rock band. Um, I should say the way that the band kind of works is it's me. All of it is mostly me. Like I write everything and everything, because the musicians that I use are just, they're all really good, and therefore they're all really busy. So, but the way that it works for them is they come in and use their creative, add their creative stamp on at the recording stage. So I will demo things, go, this is kind of the vibe, and then they'll come in and go, cool, I want to add this, so I'm going to put this in. So yeah, Daniel Barry's on the guitar, Freddie Draper, bass player. I've known him since I was 17 years old. Amazing bass player. ICMP tutor he is,
Okay.
and he's also, I think most recently he was on tour with Toya Wilcox doing her like stadium tour and everything. So he plays bass for me, which is great. And then Miguel Andrews is on drums on the records as well and live. And we all know Migs. He's amazing, a really great drummer. And yeah, and it's just, they've all been really cool about the release. And you know, when we came to deciding what the first single was going to be, you know, it was pretty unanimous that this song "Merry Go Round," which is available on Spotify, was the one that we were gonna, you know, that they wanted to put out first. They were like, that's the strongest one. So that one's, yeah, and that one got released I want to say it was like this first weekend in February last month.
Okay. When the podcast, and I put this onto Spotify and stuff later at date, I'll put it in the show notes and stuff. I'll put in there
Right. Yeah,
the links to everything. But if anyone does want to go and check this out, Ash, if they're on Spotify or Apple Music, they just need to type in Weekend Warrior? Is that?
So the spelling's weird, so you just got to be aware of that because it's not one of my best business decisions. But there's a lot of songs called Weekend Warrior, and there's a lot of like function bands called Weekend Warriors and things like that. So I've spelled it a little bit weird to kind of make it, but it's WEAK, so
Yep.
Weekend Warrior, just the one word warrior, singular, not plural. And again, the name kind of came about, funnily enough, from our conversation about mental health. I remember writing the word weekend down and going, oh, Weekend Warrior, oh, that's kind of funny, like being a regular Weekend Warrior function musician, as it were, and
Yeah.
being weakened by it. That's quite apt. That's quite apt where I'm at. So that's
Okay.
where the name kind of came from.
I did pick up on that, if I'm honest. Well, I didn't pick up on the exact story, but I picked up on the week. I thought there was something in that, in the spelling of it. It was obvious that it was done for a reason, that you changed it. Changed it from you changed it to AK instead of an EK.
Yeah, and when it comes back to what I was saying earlier about like just being exhausted with doing other people's music and just going to the point where it's like, all right, retired function musician, I'm doing my own music. This is what I sound like it or hate it. You're looking at a weekend warrior or whatever. That was kind of the idea, and I fell in love with the idea of that. So hence why I stuck with it.
Great idea, mate. Great idea. So I said, is there any shows in the pipeline that people could come and watch you, support you?
So not at the moment. So reason being is, like I said, I appreciate live music and I love it. I am also one of those people where I want like a bit of a back catalogue. If I'm going to go and see a band for an hour a night or whatever, or an hour and a half, I want to at least know 3 songs,
Okay.
that I'm going to be able to listen to. So, and to be honest, because we're doing everything ourselves, it does take time. Everyone's got different schedules. Kit, our mixing engineer, he works on film and TV and stuff like that, doing podcast audio like this. So it does take time. So next coming months, I would just say, go and like the Facebook page, go and like the Instagram. Keep an eye on, follow the Instagram. Sorry, I'm so old. and then just keep an eye out, because we've got a steady stream of singles for the next sort of 3 months, and then hopefully we're looking at a show towards the latter half of the year somewhere in Bristol is what I'd like to do. We're going to just kind of try and move it around a little bit and just try and build a little bit of excitement that way. But yeah, right now I'm releasing the music, and it's just cool to see people enjoying it and going back to their sort of emo rock roots.
Well, let's get you back on, Ash, when you do sort of release. Maybe you've released a second or third, and you're planning a show.
Oh yeah, I should probably mention that as well. So Attention, our next single, Attention, is going to be out in about 2 weeks. So I just got the final mixes back for it today, and it is sounding pretty epic. So I'm really excited for that. We're just doing some final mix cuts things, but yeah, it's going to be sort of Friday in 2 weeks' time. So again, go and check out the Facebook and the Instagram, and that will lead you back towards that and let you know when that's out.
On Spotify as well. I feel like people can follow you as well on Spotify. They can click follow, I think, and then it will notify them.
Yeah, so
I think they got to click the bell and stuff to notify you, like when it drops.
Yeah, we got YouTube too. Also, one for the guitar players, because this is a guitar podcast. If you enjoy our first single, Merry Go Round, and you enjoy it, if you go on YouTube and find Weekend Warrior on YouTube, the week after that got released, I actually did a guitar lesson on how to play.
I saw that.
From Merry Go Round, and I'm going to do the same for all the songs going forward, because a lot of my friends are guitar players, and
that's a good idea.
The riffs, you can go and check it out. So, and that's up there live now. So if you do like the song and enjoy it and want to learn to play it, it's free. It's on Weekend Warrior at Weekend Warrior UK on YouTube to go and check.
Fantastic. I said people have been watching today, which is really great to see as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And if there is any questions that you want to ask Ash, then drop them in the comments, and you will have a little look at that.
Yeah, I'll have a little skim through, and I'll
invite you back, Ash. I think so.
I'd love that. I love talking to you anyway. This is actually a nice little meet up for you and me, because we've been trying to
plan a coffee for a long time, mate.
Yeah, we've been trying to get it done, and this is good. It's talking about me as well, so that's.
Yeah, have a baby, mate. We've got a buddy now, obviously, and all your plans and your schedule are just absolutely gone out the window.
I've got a 3-year-old nephew and a 6-month-old niece who are due this evening. So don't worry. After 2 days, I'll be sort of in your in your ballpark. I get where you're at.
Oh, mate. But yes, Ash, it's been a pleasure, mate, as always,
No
to
worries.
talk with you.
Been
But
a
I'll
lot.
definitely invite you back. I reckon when you've got your sort of your planning in the sort of the gig that you're doing, you've got a venue and things like that.
Yeah.
Then let's get you back and we'll talk about that and big it up and promote it as well. So that'd be quite
That's
cool.
great.
All right.
Cool. Nice one. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks for chatting, Rich. Appreciate it.
Everyone, thanks for watching, and Ash, thank you very much again. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, Ash. Take care, mate.